So what led you to this state of mind that you're in, as far as like your knowledge of the book? What was your aha moment? What started you on this path of this way of thinking and the way things are? Like, how did you get here?
Okay.
How did you start? Because I know you didn't grow up in this state of mind.
My seeking was at a very, very early stage. My spiritual experiences started when I was as little as 4 years old. But I did not want to be like that. I wanted to be like all the other kids. I wanted to fit in, I wanted to blend in, I wanted to, I wanted to have fun like they do. So it really kind of, I shifted away from that and I started living, and I desperately wanted a normal life for myself. But that normalcy was always challenged because the inspiration did not fade away, it continued. So in that process of it, I even rejected Christianity. But, that inspiration continued because God is faithful. God is faithful to people who are really inspired by something like that. He's extremely faithful. So I lived most of my life, I sought and committed sins. Okay, and I lived a wild life. And away from the church, I explored many religions, that is, to continue the track of it. And even when I, explored other religions and things like that, I was not looking for an intellectual fulfillment. I was not looking for answers, but I was observing. See, this observation and staying away from intellectual answers, that actually was the faithfulness of God in me. Okay. So He did not want me to seek intellectual answers. He wanted me to remain an observant, to other religions. So even if I was studying other scriptures, even I was practicing other religions, even I was participating in the rituals and all of that of other religions, it was more of an observation than becoming entrenched in it.
Right, and you're just observing because you already are at this awareness that it's something more than being held to this institution of what the religion you were observing at that time.
Exactly. So it was in 2016, when I noticed my second marriage was falling apart, and I also noticed that it's happening beyond my control. I haven't contributed anything to it. So it is falling apart, and I could see the hands of God in the failing marriage. So I went to Him, and I sat there and I meditated and I prayed and I kept on questioning why. And here I am in front of the tabernacle, sitting down, and I was asking questions. Was He giving me answers? No. Then I said, God, I'm not getting away from this seat until you give me an answer. So I do that all the time. So
and you get no answer.
Yeah. And I sat there and I continued sitting there and I was in my meditation. You answer me, otherwise I'm not getting up. And then finally it came the answer. And the answer was write a book. And then he disappeared. Well, that gave me more questions, not answers. What book? Why book?
A book?
Yeah. What am I supposed to write about? What do I know that I'm going to write? I knew nothing, and you're asking me to write a book? How do I write, So that's where it is. But the thing I did was I swung into writing almost immediately. I started writing about my own story. Okay. Then I came to realize, why is this relevant to anyone? Then I went back and, in front of the tabernacle, prayed again. Why am I writing this book? Who is going to read my book? So I had, again, other sets of questions. And I got a one-word answer. He sure does have a sense of humor,
What was your answer?
An agnostic. What? Honestly, I did not even have a clear definition of who an agnostic is. Let alone that I myself am an agnostic,
And what is an agnostic?
An agnostic is somebody, who has questions, who doesn't believe, who doesn't, who doesn't subscribe to the doctrines and all of that, of the church or even of other religions, But somebody who just doesn't, want to fit in, but who's not exactly a seeker. But I was an agnostic at the same time I was also a seeker. That's the only difference. And I said, okay, I can look at myself as an agnostic and certainly I can write a book. So my first book went into the trash can.
And you started over.
And I started all over. And then I wrote 3 more books.
Oh, wow.
And all of them did not make sense to me. Then I came to a point to realize, what, God wants me to do something completely different. That is not really in my head. And He is going to reveal something to me and I'm going to write about them. So what I did was I threw away everything I wrote and I just, I was here in Buffalo.
And you continued to seek.
I continued to seek and I went back to work. I stopped writing and went back to work. But I was in meditations and prayers when I was not working. You see, it took me about a few years after that, for me to start writing. Then I started writing,
Substance.
Yeah.
Stuff that made sense.
Exactly. And even until the point of writing the last 3 chapters, I had no idea what I was writing.
And you were still seeking.
I was still seeking. And there were many publishers who wanted to publish the book the way it was. I wasn't agreeing with them. So I kind of, let all my publishers go. And I just went back to meditations and prayers and all of that. It's at that point the whole thing, came into my life. And it's at that point I wrote the last 3 chapters and decided, okay, this is it. Now it goes to publishing, and I decided to self-publish the book.
Wow.
Instead of going through
a publisher who was going to define what the book is for you instead of
and
you
who's going to
seeking.
change everything,
And that's not what God wanted.
Exactly. And so I decided to publish the book myself. So that is really what the story of this book and how it evolved. It's not something that I had in mind and what I wanted to write. Everything that I wanted to do just went into the trash can.
It wasn't your book.
It wasn't my book.
It's God's book.
Yeah.
God wrote that book.
That's pretty much what it is. Yeah. And he wanted me to put my name on it so that I can suffer all the humiliations and embarrassments. No. So he has his way of reaching out and touching people through the book. And, what I come to realize is even me, in many ways, I have stopped promoting the book and just let him guide me along. And that's where I am. And so at this point, my business agenda is not even part of, the ministry.
Right.
So
it's his plan.
it is his plan, and it is for his glory. And it is his glory alone, as the Muslims say again and again, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Okay? Inshallah, that's what it is. And and don't discount the Christians. We all say at the end, glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit. It's the same as inshallah.
Right.
All glory belongs to God. See, that's what it is. Thank you for asking, though.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay.